my intent as being a photographer for the Bay State Banner was to depict people of color in positive situations, in relationships, and to show the strength of the community in the way I took pictures. I think in journalism it's very hard to say that you're objective. I think it was in 1993 that Mel King, a community activist for many years here, ran for mayor of Boston, and he was the first person of color to reach the final two in the campaign, and he ran against Ray Flynn, who became the mayor. But Mel really set the tone of that whole campaign, focusing on the community and people. Mel was a tall, very dark-skinned, bald man who didn't smile. So he was he'd come in a room and you'd feel him and you might get scared of it. Some people, I think, he wasn't the palatable candidate for white people visually. He was a black man. He was not somewhere in between, which Obama, in a sense, is. He's more palatable for white people. During the campaign, we tried to get Mel to smile more, to be more affable, which he tried to do, because that was a factor. But I think there was more to it, obviously, than just him being who he looked like. There was people I don't think were quite ready for a person of color to lead them in this city. I think in journalism it's very hard to say that you're objective. We all bring to the table a subjective reality of our background and our in our philosophies and our way we look at life, and you can't really divorce yourself from that totally. If one of my observations through those times was when you would see a particular event, let's say maybe a press conference or something where black and white were involved, the white newspaper would always show the white person at the microphone talking and taking the lead position, not the person of color. Well, I tended to bring the person of color. I waited and I took pictures of the person of color who was at the... So that's just an illustration of how I tried to show objectively and subjectively, I tried to build and strengthen the integrity of people of color in the way I took pictures and at the angles I took them and so forth. I had the privilege of being Nelson Mandela's photographer when he went on his world tour and he came to Boston. So his Boston stay of about 2 days, I was with him. And it was basically one solid day of touring through Boston, and he visited various parts, and it was a big motorcade, and it ended up at the Hatch Memorial Shell on the Charles River on the Esplanade, where I think something like 10 to 20,000 people came to see him. So that was definitely a highlight. You see, the thing with all of my work, the first cut is mine. I know what is valuable to me. And what happens after that, then an agent could come in. I could say, well, here's all my politics, and here's all my arts, and here's all my... Now I want you to do X with all of this, because I've made the choice at that point. But somebody can't pick up my negatives and go and look in my digital files and tell me, per se, what is good and what isn't, to me. I mean, if I'm gone from this world and somebody goes back and looks over my work, yeah, they're going to look at what they think is good and not good relative to their own perception of what's good and not good, which could be okay too. But I'm going to have a whole different perspective because I was there. And I know the energy of every one of these situations. I remember them. I mean, I remember when that happened. I remember when I shot Jesse. Just the same thing with Henry Hampton. I chose that angle so that all of that was behind him. And he was there talking. He was doing his stuff, talking. And I'm just taking pictures. And I choose one out of maybe 7 or 8 or 9 frames that that says the story to me. That's how it happened.